Hi, this is Tom Netting coming to you from Washington, D.C. with another American Association of Cosmetology Schools Government Relations update. Today we're going to cover three issues: the completion and enactment of the 2011 appropriations process, new information and continued information flowing from the Department of Education regarding regulations and implementation of regulations, and also our next steps as a Government Relations Committee. Later today, President Obama will sign into law the FY 2011 Appropriations legislation. Also part of what we've talked about over the last few weeks is the continuing resolution. Unfortunately, when he signs that legislation into a law, it will not include the Klein-Hastings Amendment that you fought so hard and we fought so diligently and vigilantly to have included in the final legislation. While we had significant success back in February with a 289 to 136 vote of the House, including 58 Democrats siding with the Republicans in seeking the prohibition of the department from moving forward on the publication of additional gainful employment regulations, and also precluding them and prohibiting them from implementing the interim final regulations they published in October, we were not as successful in gaining Senate support for the provision. In conference, which concluded at the tail end of last weekend and throughout the beginning of this week, we were still in play. The provision gained a great deal of traction and a great deal of recognition throughout a very long and a very hard-fought deliberation on the budget and the budget for the remainder of this fiscal year and spending as we look into 2012 as well. Unfortunately, it was a defeat. But, as you will see in the new beauty link that comes out in May, we're focused on perseverance, and we need to persevere here. While we were unsuccessful in obtaining the amendments inclusion in the FY11 Appropriations bill, this fight is not over. And we will continue to strive to work with Congress and with the Department to ensure that gainful employment either is not promoted, or if it is promoted, that it is fair and equitable for our students and for your institutions as possible. In addition to the unfortunate inability for us to include gainful employment in the appropriations bill, there are other provisions that are of importance to you and your students. Chief among them is the federal Pell Grant program and changes that have been made to federal Pell. In the negotiations, there was a major thrust, predominantly brought about by Republicans in the House, to limit or reduce by $845 the maximum Pell. The Senate took no similar action in their development and construction of their legislation, and as we went to conference, there were major concerns as to whether or not the base Pell would be cut by a significant amount of dollars. In the conference negotiations, determinations and decisions were made to prevent the elimination of that, the reduction of that $845. The good news is that the federal maximum Pell Grant for the award year 2011-2012 will remain $5,550. The bad news is that in an attempt to refine savings within the education community, they did choose to eliminate year-round Pell. The specifics of that provision are key and are as follows. With regard to year-round Pell, students who have already been packaged and students who have been packaged for the summer term will receive their funding. Those individuals beginning in award year 2011-2012 will no longer be eligible for year-round Pell. In addition to the changes and modifications to the Pell Grant program, there was also reductions to the SEOG, also reductions to the Federal College Work Study, and the elimination of the LEAP program included in the final appropriations legislation. Moving on to the Department of Education. We have been told, and we discussed back at the Spring Management Conference, that we thought that we would anticipate seeing a number of Dear Colleague letters and additional guidance coming from the Department of Education regarding the program integrity regulations. In fact, many of those Dear Colleagues have been published. We've seen Dear Colleagues representing changes and new guidance and information with regard to state authorization, incentive compensation, and then clock hour and definition of a clock hour, ability to benefit, and I anticipate that there will be more Dear Colleagues yet to follow. This week alone, the department has also provided 2 new Federal Register notices that I would call to your attention as well. One deals with quality assurance and the opportunity for institutions to look at the verification process and perhaps participate in an experimental site, different type of model where you can request the ability to have some of the verification regulations waived at your institution. Yet just yesterday, on the 14th, the Department of Education also posted in the Federal Register additional amendments modifying the actual October 29th final regulations on program integrity. We and your GRC will continue to work to develop summaries of these modifications and changes as they're posted and as they're presented and provide them to you. To bring that full circle, we also encourage you to attend the upcoming May 15th and 16th Student Financial Aid and Alternative Funding Workshop. That workshop will bring experts from across our associate membership to Las Vegas, and hopefully you to Las Vegas, to learn yet again how to fully and effectively and clearly implement the program integrity regulations, many of which go into effect, or almost all of which go into effect July 1 of this year, with some, specifically the gainful employment reporting data, going into effect October 1 of this year. Next steps. I talked earlier about perseverance. While, as I said, we suffered a defeat, and make no bones about it, it was a defeat. We worked very diligently and were able to gain a great deal of support for our amendment, and we continue to see positive steps. Not only the 58 Democrats that sided with the Republicans in the House, but the addition of 2 Senate Democrats who sent specific letters to Senate Majority Leader Reid in the closing days of the compromise being developed, offering their support as Senate Democrats in favor of elimination or stepping back from the publication of gainful employment regs. We need to build on that. And we're going to ask you to help in that, similar to the way in which you overwhelmingly helped us when we were seeking the support for the House vote and also for the Senate collaboration and deliberations as well. I'm happy to say that as a result of CapWiz and your efforts, on 3 different occasions we were able to muster and rally in very, very short order well over 400 to 500 messages to Congress. And we're going to ask that you do it again. Over the next 2 weeks, Congress is on recess. They just adjourned today. They'll be going back to their home states and their home districts. On Monday, we will be putting forth a call to action to you, the AACS membership, requesting that you keep up the drumbeat. Again, perseverance. We need to persevere. We had a setback, but it's not the end of the fight. And in fact, we need to redouble our efforts for this fight. And we're going to ask you to do that over the next 2 weeks while your members of Congress are back in the district and back in the state. We will provide you with the tools to do so, as we often try to do. The talking points will be similar to what you've already provided, but we will modify them a little bit in order to address the changes that we've seen, both in terms of new support in the Senate, growing support in the House, and support external as well. I want to thank you for taking the time to review this video with me. I look forward to helping, along with the rest of the Government Relations Committee, our continued efforts to address the various issues of importance to your students and your school, and I hope that you have a great weekend. Thanks.